having self-validation and learning to create a support structure for yourself at each phase of your life, even if you have one person supporting you, is so key. And actually, you've been like one of those people, especially in the past couple years. Like, I think, we have to learn to support ourselves and to validate ourselves in what we're feeling. And no one can bring us fulfillment. And money can't even bring you fulfillment.
Amen to that.
To a certain degree it can, but not sustainably.
Welcome, Badass Manifester. I am so glad you are here. I'm your host, Ashley Gordon, master mindset and manifestation biz coach and multiple six-figure entrepreneur obsessed with empowering you to create quantum leaps in your energy, your life, and your business. Together, we'll make magic your everyday normal, bringing you the highest vibrational content to power your conscious and subconscious mind with manifestation and mindset tools, teachings, and experts to put your potential into action. Consider this your weekly up level. Here's the quantum transformation, baby. Say it with me. Let's do this. Just share with everyone like a little bit about, I know like that was like a little bit of your journey, but who you are and what you do and how you help people.
Yeah, well, my name's Antonina.
Yes.
I'm a mindful living and radical self-healing coach. Really for people who've dealt with family dysfunction and trauma at any point in their lifetime, to really help them overcome that and liberate themselves emotionally so that they can thrive in their purpose. So I had to really learn like who I was without anything, regardless of where I'm living, what I have, what I'm doing, and allow that kind of fluidity to be okay. So like really learning non-attachment and have to constantly tune inward to like have gratitude, see what was important right now. Like, the times I didn't have a place to live, like what was my lesson? Not everyone can deal with that.
I don't know how you did that. I don't know how you did that.
Right? Ashley, I ran a whole program with other people while I was homeless. Like, you have to realize, because I went through this pattern. It didn't happen that way. I launched the program. I had a really bad self-sabotage pattern going on. So I launched my program, which what I was doing one-on-one for a long time. I turned it into my first group program, and I sold spots in the program. And I had put myself up in a place in Colorado, and I just felt like no one gave a fuck. My family didn't give a fuck. No one in my life, my friends, like there was deteriorating. Like they couldn't keep up with me. So in my mind, especially with my relationship with my family, of no one caring what was going on in my life.
Right. Nothing was validated.
Nothing. So I just, while I had financial abundance, I had put myself up in a great place. I was about to start my program. I was in this mindset of like, why does it matter? Like, why does it matter? None of this shit matters. And like, while I could see what I was doing for other people as it related to me, like I couldn't value by myself what I've created.
Right.
I needed that validation. So I went through these self-sabotage patterns, and I would punish myself. Like every time I did good, I would feel like I was wrong, bad, deserved to be punished, especially when it came to financially being paid for what I was doing. So as I sold spots in my program, and these were people that have been in my community, so it was just like these people knew me, these people knew what I was doing, knew the work that I was doing, and they were ready, and I could hold space for them. But when it came to look at myself and appreciate everything that I'm creating, there was no external validation. And so I really had to kind of deal with these issues within myself. So like even after I had rented the place in Colorado, even before I started the program. So like December, I think it was 2018, or 2017, I sold the spots, and the program was going to start in the beginning of 2018. I was going through so much shit, and then I had found myself like in this why does it matter? Like, why bother? Like, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
And I couldn't sustain what I was creating. So I flew back to California, and just like I literally that supported me for a certain amount of time. And then I found myself like homeless again, but I had to leave my program. So I did it. I rented rooms at the library. I did group coaching sessions. I did live classes. I made sure that they had everything that they needed, regardless of what was going on within me. Like, it was something deep in my psyche that I couldn't even explain. No therapist could really pinpoint what was going on with me. And it was up to me to heal myself. Like, I had to notice my patterns, and I also had to look at my life and like what was going on at the time. Like, my grandmother, my dad's mom, would call me and shame me for like my other business and what I was doing. And you could see in real time why I kept feeling and rejecting my gifts and what I was doing and my accomplishments. Like, I couldn't fully receive it. So like, while I knew consciously, like, I have to do these things, and I want to do these things, and this is what I'm here for, I couldn't fully embrace it and accept it. And I would create these like stressful, existential like issues in my life. Like, while one thing was going really well, I would create some sort of trauma. And it was like a deviation at the time. And I had to really integrate that, and I had to be with it. So what if this is happening? Still show up.
Yeah. It's like, because like you're saying that like you something would be going really well, and then you would create some sort of trauma for yourself. And like in that, I hear a lot of responsibility. You know what I mean? Like you've taken responsibility for all the things.
I had to. And that's really what I talk about, radical self-responsibility. Because you can't control anyone or anything. It always comes back to you with everything. Whether I'm having a conversation with friends or people around me, or I'm talking in terms of the work that I do and to help other people step into self-empowerment, you can only take radical self-responsibility. I could have sat there and stayed in the story of, oh, my family doesn't support me, or I don't feel like I belong, which was the story that was, creating my reality.
Right. I remember, like, I was there, girl.
I know.
I remember what you went through. It was not fun.
Yeah. And just the denial of self, like what I was so codependent with my family that how they saw me is how I was experiencing my life. But we're multidimensional. So this dimension of me was still moving forward. It was still progressing. It was still able to hold space for other people's transformation at the stage of life that they were in. And I still was able to maintain a certain level of self-responsibility to my work to help these people. It wasn't I'm neglecting what I'm doing. Like, I showed up fully, and these people still to this day have had transformed their life and still using the tools and the practices and sharing it with others, which I find it incredible, because I did it in what I thought was such a low for me was like really a foundation. Yeah, but it was like a foundation or a springboard and an entry point for other people to do things that they weren't doing before. So, I
it's crazy. Like, your journey it's amazing. It's wild. It's been a wild ride. Let's like ground this a little bit, because I feel like we just kind of went, we were just catching up, and now I feel like we're podcasting. Well, we'll catch up as we podcast, but I'm curious. So just share with everyone, like, a little bit about, I know like that was like a little bit of your journey, but who you are and what you do and how you help people.
Yeah, well, my name's Antonina.
Yes.
I'm a mindful living and radical self-healing coach. really for people who've dealt with family dysfunction and trauma at any point in their lifetime, to really help them overcome that and liberate themselves emotionally so that they can thrive in their purpose, who God made them to be, regardless of the support system around you. And then to be able to further support yourself and start to rebuild your life. You have to face the past. But for me, I stayed there for far too long. So yeah, I love to help people really recognize that. Yeah. And grow. It's like,
yeah, that's your thing. I mean, well, I'll share my experience of, with you and our time together too. But like you guys, it's crazy because when I first got this inkling to be a coach, I was telling my friend Mia, and Mia was like, so Antonina and I, we went to high school together, but we were in different grades. So we didn't see each other all that much, but we always had this connection every time we would see each other. And so Mia said to me, she was like, you need to reach out to Antonina because she's coaching people. She lives in New York. And I looked up your website and I was like, wow, like someone's doing this. Like this is actually a career that I could potentially do. And I remember calling you. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It was random because obviously we have had some rapport together and some fun, especially. But that was like a different, hey, I'm looking to be a coach. Like, what is this about?
Yeah, totally. And
kind of threw me off.
I know. I remember that. You were like, okay. But you guided me to IPAC, which is like, it was kind of like you were such an integral part of my journey too. And like we kind of intertwine in that way. And so I just wanted to share that part of the story because I feel like it's really cool. And just, over the years, we've hung out a lot, and every single time we do, it's like I have a new level of awakening being around you. Like you're just like on this higher vibrational field that, like, I know you've had some wild, amazing, crazy experiences of like everything you've been through, but like you really are like just out of this world. Like you're just so amazing in every way, and I just truly love you.
Thank you. I love you. And as you're talking, like it really does feel like I'm out of this world. Like I really live in the spiritual realm.
You do.
And so that's why when I look at my life and the material I had all the materials living in New York, and then I went through this, like, I don't even need these things. Like, I don't need these attachments anymore. And I started to slowly get rid of them to the point where I had nothing anymore besides like my laptop, a backpack, my phone. But I see, like, it was a traumatic experience. Don't get me wrong. Like going through that detachment and the mental illness of not having things, like needing something to grasp on. But now that I look back, like, that was extremely crucial to my journey of, like, if I were to close my eyes, learning to navigate without the physical realm, this 3D world, like learning to navigate consciously and energy and healing and how to connect with other people, no matter what they're dealing with, where they come from, what they have or don't have. It's like a soul to soul connection. And I love that. Be able to be grounded and rooted into your soul and energy is important in living in this 3D world. Like, but that time was really important for me to learn who I was beyond this physical form, beyond the body, beyond the resources and materials, the eternal aspect of me.
Yeah. And I feel like you really prioritize that part of you more than most people, like I see you and you're so committed and dedicated to your spiritual practice. Like, when you visit the East Coast and you stay with me, like every morning you're journaling, every morning you're meditating, you're breathing, you're doing your exercises. And it's inspiring to me because I do those things, but you're so committed to it. And it's just being in that energy is really powerful. It's really cool.
I want to say I have no choice, but I do have a choice, right? Yeah. If I don't do those things, Ashley, I'll live from my human programming and my family dysfunction and the trauma. We're developed in the first 7 years of our life. That is like a radio tape player over and over and over again. that wasn't healthy. So even if I wake up and start my day, I'm going to have these chatter. I'm going to have this emotional resistance. I'm going to have these blocks that wouldn't be there if I did the journaling, did the inner work, breathe, connected with my soul, my spirit, and let new ideas, let new thoughts, let new energy that wants to come through me be there. So it's become a devotion. It's become a ritual. It's not something. So that's why I'm committed to my self-healing for the long haul.
Yeah.
But it's so much more. My life is more enjoyable. My work is more impactful. My life is more sustainable now. And it's not so scattered and all over the place because I commit to this practice, and not just in the morning. Like, that's important for my psyche to be centered. Because I'm an air sign, and I am so in the spiritual realms that I have to do that work to make sense of what I'm experiencing and let my soul come through, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I do. And so can you talk a little bit about like more, so I want to fill them in more on your journey of like, okay, so you moved to LA, you ended up homeless. Like, how did you?
Well,
Yeah. Okay.
Because, before becoming like a coach and helping people live mindfully and self-heal, I went to school for international business. I was always straight A student. So academics and sports is what saved me. School is what saved me. Learning is what saved me, So I went from growing up in South Jersey with you in a dysfunctional kind of, also very enclosed, like we didn't deal with our emotions. I come from an Italian family, but even culturally, where we're from, we didn't talk openly about how we feel. It was a very like surface, like, oh, we're all good. This is what we have on the outside, but never got into what was going inside. So once I left that area, I was starting to kind of create some freedom. Like, I was able to breathe for the first time, and I've always wanted to do my own thing. Business called me, like international business and management. Like, I always knew that was going to be my direction. I just didn't know specifically how that was going to be. So after college and doing I was a leadership mentor, and I helped people during college. And it was always my inclination to help people, to empower people, to guide people from a young age, even to help them validate themselves or their greatness. Like, I always wanted to do that. And I did that to a fault, like always trying to help people approve of themselves, love themselves, but never really, I had to learn to do that for myself. But so after college, I moved to New York, and I worked for global companies, various companies, but ultimately, like, I would always end up like having a mental breakdown or in tears. Like, there was something that didn't feel aligned. Like, it was like, what are we doing this for? There was no purpose. There was no passion. It was very superficial. And I remember in my last corporate job, working in fashion marketing at Club Monaco, being like, having one of these, this is fucking ridiculous moments. And I love those.
I can so relate to that. Oh my God. Yeah.
I love those to this day. But it was like, and I'll never forget it. It was like, this is fucking ridiculous. I wish we were like in a world where we were operating together for a higher purpose, empowering one another. And really, it kind of had this opening of, there's a desire here, which is different from the reality that I'm seeing. And that's where I started to see these two things can coexist, right? But why is this happening? Because I was working in fashion with a bunch of catty women and men who were so shallow and deteriorating one another, and never positively validated one another, never supported one another. So anyway, so I had this download, and then I had gotten let go because my last job was like a temporary job in marketing as I moved to New York. And after that, it was the best thing ever because I had money saved. I had just moved to New York, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to take time to figure myself out and figure out what I want to do with purpose. Okay. So I was on a mission, and I ended up doing an event, and I had this girl who was doing like personal assistant work, like for global entrepreneurs. And she's like, I have this one client who's like super demanding. And she was like, do you want to do it? Like, do you want to take him over and work on your own and kind of do? And I was like, what? Like, I was like, I've been working with executives for a long time, but doing this on my own, like that would be amazing. Like, so it was almost like, because I took that time, I said, I'm not rushing into another job. I'm going to take the time. I'm going to start consciously creating what it is that I want. And I realized what I did have, the foundation that I did have, from my place to financial resources. And, you know, not everyone has that during the time, but at the time I did. So I took a little time, because my actions supported me then, to kind of go through this. And it was I could never have picked that out. It was a very guided thing. So I had to trust the process. And anyway, so I got this client. My first client was this French man, and he owned like a global advertising agency, worked with all different brands. And I don't want to name drop, but and through that relationship, I started to really step into my power, into my leadership, into being able to manage someone else's business and life and be the bridge between the two. And he started to refer me to other people. And then all these people had global businesses, were world travelers. And so I eventually launched Life Well Made as a lifestyle management company for global entrepreneurs. But over the first year and a half, I started to realize that these people had everything, but they didn't have fulfillment. They didn't have connection. They didn't have purpose. And I was doing everything for them. And I felt indebted to my clients. And that's when I went through this, again, little mental breakdown of like, there's something in me that's not being accessed. And I'm still living for other people or doing things for other people. And I really had to, once again, zoom out. And it was the summer of 2014 that I had my first for real mental breakdown, where I experienced like chronic depression, like real serious depression. I was having fear-based thoughts. I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. I never was taught this, ever. So I had to go into therapy for the first time. I had to take like Xanax for like 30 days. And I don't believe in medication, but I didn't know how to deal with what I was feeling. Like, I remember being at my client's office, just having these panic attacks. And just having like this voice in my head while I'm doing all the things, like it was just, I couldn't shut it up. I couldn't silence it. So I realized I had to do something about this. I had to start to tend to my inner world. And it wasn't something someone was like, oh, you need to do the inner work to transform your reality. Like, it wasn't the language then. I just was like, something is going on within me that I can't explain. And I had to start to, while yes, I was still working with my clients, I had to prioritize my healing.
Yeah.
I had to. So therapy, which led to doing breathwork classes, going to breathwork classes, meditation classes. I was doing yoga again. I've been doing yoga since I was like 14, 15, but I had to start doing these daily, and I had to do things differently, you know?
I want to just plug in here and just say, like, I think for a lot of people, they might experience similar things, but they don't necessarily know that they need a healing, right? Like, yeah. They don't even know what healing is. Like, did you know back then, like, what healing was? Or
no?
Yeah.
No,
okay.
I had no idea. And I didn't have the language, and I didn't know what was going on within me. I just knew I was in utter emotional distress. And I just had all these scary thoughts, and you can't control your thoughts, especially when they're happening so frequently. But I had to start paying attention to what was going on within me. And, you know, I was fortunate to be connected with, you know, from some great meditation guides in New York to great breathwork practitioners. And this one lady who just was like, I remember there was a time where I couldn't even think, like I could not even access my thoughts. I was so like traumatized that like my brain was not working the same way. And she was like, sweetie, when you're ready to think again and function, you will. And And I was just like, oh my God. Like in the next day, my, I don't know, mental amnesia subsided. It felt relaxed in my body. And I just felt like this was okay. No one validated my fear, my stress, my depression, my anxiety. Again, constantly looking for that outside validation that I was never going to get. But fortunately, universe brought me some sort of healthy validation that it was okay what I was experiencing. And that is really the whole element to self-healing. Like what you're experiencing is okay. Yeah. And from there you open up. From there you acquire the resources, the tools, the direction that you need. If we keep rejecting ourselves, we stay in fight or flight. We stay in fear. We stay in anxiety. We stay blocked. We stay stressed out. We don't allow ourselves to drop into the feeling, which is so difficult for us to feel. I didn't want to feel the anger. I didn't want to feel the fear. I was terrified. I didn't know. And I never, like I said, growing up in a family where emotions, you didn't talk about your emotions. This was foreign to me. So that led me on a deeper, like, okay, I have to do these things and it's okay. And I was starting to find freedom and enjoyment in going to these different experiences that I was stepping out of going to bars and clubs and doing this type of social experiences to healing became my new form of freedom. Wow. And yeah, so going to a meditation class on the weekend or going to a breathwork class and investing my financial resources in self-healing because I couldn't live like this anymore. Wow. So I had to do that. And then that got me better, like within 3 months. I after 30 days, I stopped taking Xanax. I don't believe, that's a personal belief, is I don't believe in medication. I don't think, taking antidepressants, that like numbs you out. I needed to feel the depression. I needed to feel it. I needed to feel the fear. I needed to allow my body to be in it and be okay and not try to analyze it or obsess about it. I just had to know that I'm going through something. And while I don't have all the tools, I don't have the language, it's okay. And constantly validating myself. I was always looking for outside validation. I finally had to look for internal self-validation of what I'm feeling.
And I feel like that's so relatable to so many people, including me. Like, I feel like on some level, we all search for that. And we all want that all the time. And that's the one thing that holds us back over and over and over and over again. Because even if it comes from the outside, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to take it in and believe it. It might end up meaning nothing to you. And then what,
Yeah. And it takes time, but it really is like learning to create belief and trust and faith in yourself.
Yeah. I was just wondering how like all the ways in which you broke through that.
Yeah. We're culturally conditioned to be codependent and look towards other people for direction, guidance, how to live, how to dress, how to do this, where to work, what to do, how to run your business. I mean, seriously. So, right. So I really didn't realize that I came from a codependent family. We're all looking, and it's almost like we're stifled because we don't want to like walk on eggshells or offend anyone or whatever. But I took that same mentality to my life. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't living. I actually wasn't living. So I had to start to drop into all these layers of emotions to free myself, to literally free myself. And over time with doing these practices, going to these experiences consistently, I was able to kind of break through this first layer. And then, I was still in therapy. That was effective for me at the time, and doing the self-healing work on my own time. A therapy session wasn't going to change my life. It brought me awareness. It made me understand my past and why I was the way I was, but it wasn't going to help me move forward. And then I started to search. I was on like Danielle Laporte's like website one time, and she had like a link for coaches. And I'm like, what the hell is that? So I like clicked on there, and I had found like, I was like people in the area, and I never knew what a life coach was. I had no idea. And this one girl, I guess she was from Brooklyn. I was living in Brooklyn at the time. and she offered like a free 75-minute session or something crazy. Wow. And I know. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, let me sign up for this.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's like unheard of.
Yeah.
And I just connected with her so well, and I felt so supported. And I was just like, and she like offered to like, you know, her program.
Yeah.
And I did it. And I worked with her for 3 months, and I was like, she just helped me be accountable. And it wasn't really around self-healing. It was like I was doing the healing work, and she was holding me accountable to like my actions in life, my work, and moving forward in that way. And I just was like, I can do this, and I can do this better. And I can do this with more soul, and I can bring in different types of healing modalities and really help people transform from within, so that then we go to outer action and goals and moving forward there in whatever area that it is.
That's so cool. That's so cool that like that sparked that in you to be like, okay, I have all these healing modalities that I've been working on. Now you see the experience of working with a coach, and you're like, ding, ding, ding.
Yes. And she was an IPEC coach. So she is how I found out about IPEC and energy leadership. And that program was absolutely transformational for me. It really taught me about mindfulness and just the awareness of our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions, and that we are not our thoughts and our feelings. And I just had this revelation, like, holy shit, I am not these thoughts, these crazy thoughts. I am not these crazy emotions. Like, I can see I took this on from my upbringing. And it was just like, while I was still in these toxic thoughts and emotions, I was projecting them. I was telling my dad I'm angry. Like I let people know in my family like what was up. And this is where it started, this rebellion, which wasn't the best way to deal with it, but there was no one helping me through this experience. So I had the initial awareness of like, I'm not my thoughts. Like, I'm not my emotions. So I had to move through them in healthy ways, but this program guided me into coaching. And, you know, I was still working with my clients at the time, but if in summer of 2014, I went through this depression. By April of 2015, I was signed up for IPEC in the program. Like, you have to realize the cadence of this.
Yeah.
So then, and then a year into the program, I started coaching, like, just right away. So, you know, and generating income, which wasn't always consistent, but I was doing it. So,
and I mean, also to mention, like, you also haven't you're naturally good at like tech and stuff. Like, you had a beautiful website, and like you have a beautiful.
I hired someone. To do that. Yeah, that was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And as I healed myself, I opened up to these different elements, and like, It was like a gradual experience, but I always took inspired action. I never waited around for people. I took risks. I took a lot of risks. I mean, obviously some that made me fail and fall flat on my face, but I personally wouldn't have learned unless I took these chances. And I was willing to face the trauma and the difficult moments to guide me into what was meant for me.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. That is such a powerful statement. Such a powerful statement. Like, you had to go through all of that to guide you to what was meant for you. Holy shit. And I think this is just it's a true hero's journey, right? Like, it's like, and it's so full circle. It's so cool. It's so inspiring. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I remember just like, because like eventually when you look at your clients, you know, at the time, how I started my business, they had everything. I mean, millions of dollars, business trips, family. They could do anything they wanted. Yeah. They were around the coolest people, so you think. But there was this disconnect, and it was starting to make me depressed. So that was also, this next lull was also my next springboard, and following the flow of that. But I just, you know, it's like we spend so much time thinking like, are we enough? I mean, there's people that have everything that still don't think they're enough.
Right.
So I looked at them being like, I don't want to be like them. I don't want to have everything and still not have fulfillment. So I was paying attention. That is also a gift of mine. Paying attention to my outside surroundings and not letting it kind of influence me, but letting it bring me perspective. So, and I think that's really important to note. So as of April 2015, on tax day, I said, I'm done. I'm not working with you guys anymore, period. I'm jumping into coaching. And I had did that. The first year was a very interesting journey. But by 2016, I was doing bi-weekly meetups in New York that were sponsored by Compass and another co-working space. I had 2 beautiful spaces. We were doing consistent meetups every other week. I had 15 to 20 people in them, and it was a free meetup. And then I ended up getting like, I think 4 or 5 coaching clients. And then that was where I made my first 5 figures in a month. And it was a really catastrophic moment.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize it was, but my family, when I shared with them, because they were so, how are you going to make money doing this? And then when I said, hey, I made X amount of dollars doing what I'm loving doing right now. And they were just like, it was like crickets. It was like, I was talking to a ghost. And once again, I didn't realize that was going to take me, I was still in my high. I had a great relationship at the time. I was living in Brooklyn. I, was leading a really impactful meetup every other week, and that I was loving. I was now doing one-on-one coaching work, and that was sustaining me. That was fueling me at the time. And then, May came around and my lease was up, and I said, I don't need to be here anymore. I could do my work from wherever. And that was the next huge risk. And I moved to Colorado before I came to LA. And then it was kind of like, I didn't realize I needed that validation outside. And that's where it sparked again, this deeper emotional issues within me. Like, really? So, I mean, having self-validation and learning to create a support structure for yourself at each phase of your life, even if you have one person supporting you, is so key. And Ashley, you've been like one of those people, especially in the past couple years, so I think, we have to learn to support ourselves and to validate ourselves in what we're feeling. No one can bring us fulfillment, and money can't even bring you fulfillment.
Amen to that. It's so true. And
to a certain degree it can, but not sustainably.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of coaches listen to this podcast, and a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of people in general are probably sitting here thinking like, yes, like so many coaches go through this too, where they're like, I'm going to do what I love. I'm going to follow my passion. I'm going to help people. And then their families are so stuck in an old paradigm of like,
right,
work a 9-to-5 job. You have a like a consistent, reliable salary. You have benefits. You have this, you have that. And I know that that's something my mom always wanted me to have. So when I would start, starting a network marketing business or starting, a coaching business or starting something else, she would be like, yeah, okay. It was always like that level of like, I believe in you, but like, you should have something to fall back on.
But really, it was like, I don't believe in you, that you could do it.
Yeah. And I think that affects so many people.
Yeah, it does. It does. And now more than ever, people want to be coaches and start their own businesses, and rightfully so, because we're meant to do these things, right? But also during that process of stopping to look to these sources where we got validation from, being our family or our close friends, and starting to validate ourselves and associate with people that are doing what we want to do. And that's where it becomes kind of like this healthier balance. Because if you're trying to do something that's progressive, new, and kind of evolutionary, and you're still, like you said, in those old paradigms, you're going to be met with resistance. You're going to be met with extreme doubt and people that don't believe in you, people that love you, that will shit on you for what you're doing. When I first launched my podcast that summer that I moved out of New York and moved to Colorado, my first episode for Shatter Your Reality Radio was letting go of family paradigms to express your true self. And I remember my mom like bitched at me. She didn't congratulate me, of course. Like, it wasn't like, oh, you're launching a podcast. She was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why would you say that? Like, and I was speaking my truth and she didn't want to hear it. And so once again, instead of celebrating my path and what I was carving out, I started to digress and feel bad and feel shameful. So that was a pattern that I had to step out of and stop giving my power away.
Okay, a couple questions. And little did she know, and a comment. Little did she know at the time, like, you were ahead of the curve, right? You were ahead of all the people becoming life coaches and ahead of all the people starting podcasts. And like, it was pretty, like, she had no idea. And people just don't know what they don't know. You know what I mean? Like, she just didn't understand.
She didn't. And that's a really good point to bring up, you know, and I had to do a lot of forgiveness work around that, you know, Ashley, even like when I stayed at your house, what was it, last summer? Yeah. I mean, there was still serious trauma going on with my family. And the more I released what they thought and their expectations and was no longer angry at them because they couldn't meet me where I was at, but had started to have compassion and a better level of understanding, was like, they're from a different generation, or, you know, this is new to them. This is foreign to them. And having acceptance over it, and then coming back to radical self-responsibility of who I am, what I'm meant to do, what I am doing, and not looking for their approval, looking for self-approval, looking for people that are engaging with my content that is helping them. So while she was shaming me, people were like really saying, thank you. I needed to hear this, you know, and applying it and just giving new perspective. Yeah. So yeah, you know, especially being a woman, I don't even want to say that, being a woman or a man, whatever, but I was the first woman in my family to not follow the path of getting married right away, having kids, being the householder. Like, I was the first person that went to college, was working in the corporate world, started my own business. Like, yes, I had relationships, but that having a family and settling down was not my number one priority. It just wasn't. Like, and so it was very hard for my family to grasp. And now I'm not in the thick of the anger or not understanding what was happening. I can see, like, it was like a generational split, and I was stepping into a new paradigm. And it's really important to know everyone's journey is totally different, and not everyone that you grew up with or your family is going to understand you or support you, but you can still do it.
Wow. Yes, you can still do it. And I think a lot of our generation is in the process of healing past generational trauma too, because we take it with us. It's in our DNA. So it's like healing, taking responsibility for your healing. It's so powerful. So just to kind of bring everyone up to speed, where are you at right now with your family?
So I'm in a really good place. Like, I talk to my mom pretty much almost every day again. And we have like hour-long conversations weekly. It's different. My mom can emotionally hold space for me. She can acknowledge me as a human being, not like, if she doesn't agree with it, she could still hold space for my differing opinions or beliefs or desires. It's a miracle. But my mom also had to do the work, you know. I'm rebuilding my relationship with my grandparents. My relationship with my dad is it's not bad. It's not in a bad place. It's just not in a fulfilling or deeply loving place. So I'm just grateful there's no animosity anymore there. So but what you said about like healing generational trauma, this is what this is about. What has been done to us, our parents couldn't evolve from. So they repeated the pattern. And this is really what it is. When we take radical self-responsibility for healing the generational trauma that we've come from, we heal our entire family.
Yeah, so and our future family.
This is the most important thing of all. You're the bridge. Thanks for saying that. So it's the most empowering, powerful, difficult, messy work that you will do, but you're changing the trajectory of your past and your future. And so I had the chills as I'm saying
me too.
it.
It's like tearing me up.
So, you know, you, like you said, it is a hero's journey, and our generation specifically is that bridge, and we're all going to have to heal the generational trauma that's come before us so that our future generations don't have to deal with the same stuff we dealt with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure if you're listening and you're thinking about your family and you're reflecting on your own family, because that's just what we do. We hear things and we relate to it. I mean, you can probably pinpoint your mom's patterns. You can probably pinpoint your dad's patterns. You can probably see how limited your grandparents think. And maybe not, but like most of us can probably relate to that. And we know that we don't have to live like that anymore. And there's another way. There's a better way. And it's really powerful stuff. So I'm excited for you for coming so far with it and doing all the work, because that's really that's the hardest part. It's like doing that work and looking at it and being real with yourself. And the responsibility piece is like the biggest thing.
Radical self-responsibility. That's all you can do. And in that, you free yourself, because now you're leading yourself and you're not looking to your grandparents or your parents to lead you. You're leading you. And in turn, how you show up for them, how you engage with them, it's a different energy exchange. Okay. So it all comes down to energy leadership. If we're still codependent, we're letting them influence how we feel. Once we kind of cut cords from that, and that's physically, mentally, emotionally, and we start to validate our own self, what we feel, what we think, then when we go back with those relationships or back to those relationships, we can really have this different mind and different perspective. And we're not so attached to how they feel and how they show up. And it's very liberating. And that's how you really start to release yourself from what's called enmeshment, of like being enmeshed with your family. Like you don't know where they end and you begin. You really got to start to, like, it's an individuation process where it happens in natural, healthy families. But in dysfunctional families where, you know, we all have to think the same and group think is enforced like we do culturally, you know, that individuation process doesn't happen. But at some point, if you're a strong soul and you're living in a paradigm that's not yours, with beliefs and feelings that are not yours, you're going to feel the discomfort and you're going to physically see it, the dysfunction in your reality. So it is just, and it's not a bad thing to do self-healing work. It's a radical thing.
I have a question. So what are like 3 ways to lead? This is like such an amazing episode and your story is incredible. And I want to give them 3 ways that they can start taking radical responsibility right now. Like how can they get into action around that right now if someone's ready to do that?
Okay, 1, stop being codependent with people. Like if someone thinks, feels a certain way, you don't have to agree with them anymore. And stop validating their reality. Start to validate your own, but acknowledge them. Like I acknowledge you feel that way, and this is how I feel.
Yeah, good.
1. 2, journaling. I mean, your journal, your notebook is a neutral party, non-judgment, okay? So writing your thoughts down every day, no matter if they make sense or don't make sense, really there's times where I was so angry and enraged, I just wrote it all out. I scribbled, I journaled, I did whatever I do to get it out. You have to get it out, because not everyone, if there's no one that can validate what you're feeling, you have to do it. The journal is the best way. I mean, that's why you see me journaling every day. I write my thoughts, my ideas, my emotional experiences down to liberate myself. It's the best blank canvas ever. So writing every day, or when you're inspired, when you feel like you need to process something, writing and in your notebook. And then 3, either meditation or yoga, you know, but even before those 2, learning to connect with your breath. Like when you feel your nervous system, or when you feel the fear, or when you feel the resistance, to breathe, like to not entertain it or not to project what's going on outside of you. Really learn to breathe, breathing changes the game for everything, and your body can start to relax, and breathing allows you to move into a yoga practice, or breathing allows you to actually drop into meditation. So I would say breathing, like learning to connect with your breath, and learning when we're stressed out, we stop breathing. We like stifle our breath. So we want to breathe full body from like our head to our toes.
Yeah.
Every day, and allow this energy to move through us. And the breath clears and purifies the emotions that we feel regardless.
So powerful. And when you stayed with us last summer, I was like stressing out about something, or I had something stuck in my throat chakra, and my like throat was, I don't know, was doing some weird thing. Do you remember that?
Yes,
And
I do.
you took me through this breathing exercise, and it was like I never breathed before. It was like, it was deep. It was really cool. It was a really cool experience. And I would imagine like your coaching relationships to be very like experiential.
They are. And that's why, because like everyone's experiencing something different. Even that experience with you when your throat was all blocked up.
Yeah.
It's obviously like you have the awareness now and intuitive ability to be like, okay, something's going on in my throat chakra, in my voice, but not everyone has that awareness. But
Sure.
Our physical sensations in our body mirror what's going on. So if you could just be with the sensation, like you were with it and you actually explored it, like you specifically sat as if you were scheduling time or a space for this thing, you were like, okay, instead of avoiding, oh, I got a throat issue and you're going to go do something else. You were like, okay, let me tend to this. So you sat there and you were with it and you breathed through it and you were allowing it to move and you were allowing whatever thoughts and ideas to come through you to have clarity around what is this?
Yeah.
What is this thing? And then you had your own breakthrough by breathing.
And I think that that's a perfect example of radical responsibility.
Amen.
Yeah. So good. So good. Oh my gosh. Okay. So thank you. And I have to ask, because I ask everyone that comes on the show, Antonina, what makes you a badass manifester?
My immense faith and trust in God and the universe, like hands down. I have God, and I've always been some sort. I don't call myself religious, but when I had nothing, there was some sort of intuitive wisdom, guidance, or miracles, or even that came in the form of humans, where I was having this dialogue with me and my higher power. So when I had no materials, I still had everything I needed at that time with my relationship with God. So, and I was able to manifest the things that I needed with that dynamic, that trust and that faith in a higher power, that something is always looking over me, looking out for me, guiding me. Even when I felt so confused, lost, broken, that there was still a life force, something that was really precious, that really did want me to be well. So, yeah.
Amen to that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
How can everyone connect with you, find you, follow you, enroll with you? Give us all the details.
Yeah. So my business is called Life Well Made, and you can find me on basically any social media platform, but specifically Instagram and Facebook. And then I have a podcast called Shatter Your Reality Radio on iTunes and SoundCloud. And there you really can kind of get the gateway into the realm of Life Well Made. I have a free mindful living community where I support people weekly. And then I have an upcoming 6-week radical self-healing group program starting. We prepare for the program starting May 16th, but it starts the first week of June. So if anyone is interested in doing the inner work and really looking at their emotions and self-healing, any past trauma, like this, I invite you to just come check it out or talk to me, and you can connect with me through any social media platforms. So
yes, thank you. Definitely connect with her. She has such an amazing energy and amazing messages on the daily on her IG. So I love you. Thank you for being on the show.
I love you so much, and I'm really proud of you and everything you've created, and I just want to send good energy to anyone who's listening, and a big hug. Ashley, your soul is so beautiful. Like I could cry because, for real, because like where we grew up in South Jersey, people were just so outward focused, and you're always such a bright light. So to see you do this work and to do it well and guide a lot of people is like so amazing. So thanks for being on my side.
I love you.
I love you too.
We're crying, everyone. Woo! We did some work today because that is how we roll. Thank you so much for listening. You know I love my BAM fam. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who you know would love it too. How can you support the show? Make sure you're subscribed, hit those 5 stars, and leave a review on iTunes and let me know how the podcast has impacted you. It truly means the world to me. I love being part of your real-time journey, so screenshot this episode and tag me and my guests on IG at Manifest with Ash. Say with me, I am my own power source. I am the master of my own energy. I deserve everything I desire. Now go get 'em.